Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Rowe, and I am dedicated to improving my own life and also helping you to improve yours. In today's video, I'm going to be talking more about bipolar disorder and about the spiritual experiences that come along with this mental illness. A lot of people are quick to discredit the spiritual, what they call delusions. But I, being someone who has experienced bipolar disorder myself, I have come to realize that these things, these experiences that are of a spiritual nature, are not just delusions. Now, I'm not claiming that the actions or, ideas that you might express while in a manic state experiencing these spiritual delusions, I'm not saying that what you're doing in this state is going to be normal. But I am going to say that there are legitimate spiritual aspects to this illness. And one way that I know this is because I have studied spiritual enlightenment for about 5 years now, on and off. And I have come to find that really, even before I had my first manic episode, I was interested in this. I was interested in, this kind of going into your own consciousness and exploring it. And that's where I first learned about the idea of enlightenment or spiritual enlightenment. You don't even really need to use the word spiritual if you're not accustomed to using that word and you think that spiritual things are bullshit, then just say enlightenment. But the point of this is that bipolar disorder really does bring us into a different state of consciousness that does have a connection to the enlightenment experience. I'm not saying that it's full-on enlightenment like Buddha had or something like that, but I am going to say that this is a legitimate experience. You really do feel a lot of the same truths and the same experiences that someone feels through enlightenment that might be found through meditation or some other means of achieving enlightenment. And the reason why this is so weird and why people are easy to call this a delusion is because these people with bipolar disorder, they might be in their teens, they might not be very developed as people, but they are getting legitimate spiritual insights. They just don't know how to handle them. When I had my first manic episode, I had a real feeling where I was just like, I'm not going to say to people that I am 100% Jesus Christ, but I certainly feel like it. I certainly feel a connection to that spiritual energy. Now, the reason why people say Jesus a lot, especially in the Western cultures, is because Christianity permeates into so many aspects of our lives. It's such a popular religion. It's the world's most popular religion by amount of followers or believers. And it's very easy to just go directly to this archetype of Jesus Christ, like, I feel so amazing. I know that this is beyond any normal experience that people around me have ever had. I know that this is real, so I must be Jesus. That's what people say. That's how they feel it. And recently I've had two kind of hypomanic, borderline manic episodes, and both of these were actually triggered by my own seeking of enlightenment. And I was seeking enlightenment by eating a plant-based diet, by meditating, and by exercising daily, by staying hydrated. I was doing many healthy things. I was also getting my sleep right for the first time in many years since I was diagnosed with the illness. This is probably the first time that I had my sleep together and was following a real sleep schedule. And I began getting more things done in a day than ever before. And this was before I had any manic symptoms. It was actually getting my life together that triggered these two kind of mini borderline manic episodes. And that's what's so funny, is that I was getting my life together, and the biggest part of that was actually meditation. I was meditating daily. I was going to a local organization where you meet with other people, and I was practicing heartfulness meditation with them and learning from a teacher from that tradition. And I started feeling real spiritual growth. And it was through the spiritual growth that I actually had maybe a week or two where I was living maybe like 80% in the present moment, which is just such a life-changing experience in and of itself. And by living that way, I really got to a place where I triggered manic symptoms for myself in my own body. That it came about through actually realizing that everything that I was seeking with spiritual enlightenment was real. I began to feel the real consequences. I began to be happier. I began to be fully present to the moment. Like I said, maybe about 80% of the time that I was awake. And I began being a more generous person, a less judgmental person, and I could see all of these things happening, and I could feel, I felt at least partially enlightened. And how I should honestly describe these experiences is they were like Satori experiences. They weren't like it, they were Satori experiences. And it's actually the first kind of glimpse into enlightenment actually triggered manic symptoms. And that's what's so funny. And what's so weird about these past two kind of mini manic episodes that I had in the past month in December of 2018, the funny thing about these is that I was actually more controlled in these episodes than any other manic episode that I had ever had before. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I knew the reasons why I was doing these things. Really strange actions, such as one thing I did is I saw a possum dead on the road, and something morally felt wrong to me about that situation. Something wasn't ethically right. So I got out of my car with my bare hands, and I picked the possum up. And, I didn't care if I got its guts and its viscera on my hands. I just picked it up and I carried it and I put it down like next to a creek back in nature where I felt like it belonged. And after that, I put my hands in the grass. I rubbed them in the grass. I rubbed them in the dirt. I washed them off in a stream. And then I walked through the stream. And I saw a dead frog overturned in the stream. I picked the frog up and I kissed it and I placed it back into the stream respectfully. And then I kept walking and I ran into someone out of their house who saw that my car had been left open on the highway. My car door was left wide open. I knew that no one was going to actually steal my car. Just in the place that I live, the chance of that happening was so small. So I just, when all of this happened, when I first saw the possum, I just jumped out of my car to go pick this animal up and put it where I felt like it should be, in that kind of borderline manic and also hyper spiritual state. That's what I was caring about. And I didn't care about what other people thought. I didn't care if my car got stolen. I knew that, realistically, logically speaking, it was such a small probability that someone was going to steal my car, just because of kind of it was a country road. There wasn't a huge chance of that happening. So I still had like a logical mind, but I also knew that sometimes logic and rationality and living a life determined by, maximizing every little thing in your life actually leads to a sterilized life. And in that spiritual state that I was living in, I realized that, if I lose my car, it's not the most important thing. I didn't lose my car. No one did anything to it. But that's just to give a small example of like the things that I was doing. And the strangest thing about all of this is that I could be instantly calm if I chose to be. if I chose to be. Now, most of the time, I didn't give a fuck what people thought. That's a common thing that I have when I'm in a manic episode. Or we can call it, a borderline manic and also spiritual episode. When I'm in that state, I care more about my own values, my own ideals, and I express those and I express myself fully, and only in extreme situations where maybe I would feel legitimately like physically threatened by someone, or feel like something was really bad, that something was going to happen to me that was really bad. In that situation, I'll calm down and control myself and have no problem doing that. But for me, a lot of people have described my manic episodes are really like it's Brandon is just Brandon without a filter, or without a certain set of filters. That's what one of my friends told me recently, and people use this during my first manic episode, that they said that you have no filter. And that, for me, that's really what it is. I'm not sure if it's that way for every single person in manic episodes, but that is a key component of mine. But the point of all of this is that real spiritual feelings came about during these kind of manic episodes, and also legitimate spiritual feelings came about in my life, real spiritual experiences, deep connections to being and the present moment came about in my life, and I lived through that in an experience that 99% of humanity will never experience, sadly enough. Like, so many people won't experience things on the level that I did. And we have psychiatry, mainstream psychiatry and psychology, who are just calling these spiritual experiences delusions and completely discrediting any truth that might be in them. I mean, that really gets to me. That really annoys me. And that's one of the things that pisses me off. The first time I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I always said, right at the beginning, I was like, why are we calling this a disorder? The only reason it's seen as a disorder is because I don't know if it's 99%, but whatever percentage, 95 to 99% of people who don't have bipolar disorder are living on a different level of consciousness. And because they're living on a different level, they're seeing the world in a different way. The level of consciousness that they're on, they kind of feel that reality is stagnant and it doesn't change based on what kind of consciousness you're at. But when you have a severe manic episode, you'll realize that, in the same way that if you took a psychedelic drug, you'll realize that reality is not as concrete as you think it is. It's also very based in your personal experience. Your experience also changes your reality, how you experience it. What kind of state of consciousness are you in? Doing something as simple as drinking alcohol can change your state of consciousness. It's just not nearly to the extent that being in a full-blown manic episode with psychotic features would change your feelings of reality, or taking, psilocybin magic mushrooms, they would also change your experience of reality. To show you that a hallucination is only a hallucination if you're looking at it from the normal state of consciousness. That is the baseline. That if most people are experiencing this state of consciousness in the middle, they're going to think that this is reality. But really, reality exists on all of these different states of consciousness, on consciousness levels that are lower, like tribal consciousness, and like survival consciousness, like what animals are at. Reality, it changes. Your experience of reality changes throughout all these different levels. And this is one thing that aligns with what's taught in spiral dynamics. Spiral dynamics is a model of personal development that was created by psychologists as their life's work. They spent many years on it to develop one of the probably the most intricate model of personal development ever made. It puts Abraham Maslow's self-actualization, or his pyramid. It puts Maslow's pyramid to shame, and it puts I think it's Erik Erikson's stages of psychological development. It puts those to shame because those models are just so much less detailed than spiral dynamics. Spiral dynamics goes through different stages, and they're actually different colors, and they describe different levels of consciousness. And right now, go ahead and look into spiral dynamics. It's going to blow your mind if you've never actually looked into it before. If you actually research this, you'll see just how funny this is, how great this model is. Right now, America, the United States, as a whole, on average, is at stage orange. And if you look into it and see what stage orange is actually about, it really spells out the United States to a T. It's like spot on. And then it also spells out stage green, like our social justice warriors, where they're at. They're actually at a higher level of consciousness than stage orange. The problem is, they still have many issues that they need to fix within themselves before they can, stop causing problems also. Because stage green is not the highest level of development. After stage green is stage yellow. On stage yellow, then you begin to become aware of the whole spiral, that people are on different levels of consciousness. And you also become a systems thinker. At stage yellow, you begin to see the interconnectedness of things. And this is an insight. I had insights of this during manic episodes. Seeing the vast interconnectedness of not only everything within my own psychology, but many other things in the world. And then after stage yellow is the highest stage, which is stage turquoise. That is where enlightenment and a deep spiritual connection is actually found, is at stage turquoise. And it's funny that this is the highest level of development, because people at stage orange, at our current, average level of consciousness in the United States, think that spiritual feelings are kind of bullshit because they're reacting to stage blue that was right before stage orange. Stage blue was where fundamentalist religious people were at. Stage orange confuses religion with spirituality, and that's where they get fucked up. They think that logic and science and rationality is the answer to everything. They think that their logic encompasses all. But as Leo Gura, the creator of Actualize.org, describes, reality is not rational. It's not irrational. It is irrational. It is just simply outside of the realm of rationality. Logic and rationality are tools that were created by the human mind. They were created by the human mind, and they only exist in reality when a human mind, or mind of a certain level of consciousness, like stage orange, is looking at the world that way and judging the world that way. As soon as human beings are gone, are animals rational, or are they irrational? This is something that Leo Gura describes in his video, which is like a rant against rational thinking. I'll actually go ahead and include that in the description below. It's a really interesting thing to look into. It's a really interesting video that describes the ideas that I'm talking about here even more in depth. Leo also describes spiral dynamics in, multiple hour videos for each single stage. He really has great content. So I've linked his videos before in the description of my videos and talked about him before, but I'm going to include him again just because he is such a great source. But anyway, we've talked a bit about bipolar disorder, the spiritual feelings that you have when you have bipolar disorder, especially when you're in a manic episode. And I've given you some reasons why these feelings are valid. The key reason is because people who have felt spiritual enlightenment or have reached any stage of enlightenment, they also experience things, similar feelings to what people experience when they're manic. I actually thought of an analogy, or like a comparison. So the spiritual feelings that you have from a manic episode are like automatic. They're given to you and you might not be ready for them. It's like a rich kid being given the key to his dad's Ferrari when he's 13, and that's the first car he's ever driven. The truth of the situation is, yes, he's driving a Ferrari. Yes, the manic person is having a legitimate spiritual experience, but in both cases, the people are not ready to handle the truth of the situation. The kid is not ready to handle driving and operating a car with more power than 99% of cars on the road, simply because he doesn't have any experience driving. As well as many people who are in manic episodes don't have that much experience living in spiritual states of consciousness, because those states of consciousness align with stage turquoise, which in the model of spiral dynamics is the highest stage, which like 0.1 or 0.00001% of people on Earth, some crazily small number like that. That's how many people who have made it to stage turquoise right now. And the people with manic episodes are getting insights that are at that level, and they don't know what the fuck to make out of it. And that's why they really have a hard time fitting into society at that point. And to be fair, people who are legitimately at turquoise don't always fit that well within society either, because a stage orange society or a stage blue society is pretty fucked up, and we don't want to live in that. And that's one aspect that a lot of people with bipolar disorder probably experience, is much of our pain comes from the fact that we just don't want to live the life that we're living. We want something more. We want something better. And that's also just a trait that I think many people in general have, whether you have a mental illness or not. But anyway, I spoke a lot about bipolar disorder and this whole idea of spirituality and how it goes into play with bipolar disorder and manic episodes. I hope that this information was helpful to you, especially to you guys out there and you girls out there who have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's no fun sometimes, and sometimes it's a lot of fun. Sometimes it's too much fun when you're in a manic episode. But anyway, I'm going to end this video. I'm going to sign off. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like. It helps me grow the channel. Also, leave a comment if you have any questions whatsoever, or if you just want to talk to me. The comments also help me expand the reach of my videos, because YouTube judges how much they should promote a video based on engagement, like likes and comments. And of course, if you want to see my videos in the future and get notifications of them, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon, and you will be notified when I make more videos. Other than that, thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you in another video. I hope you have a great day.